Imagine this. You spend months growing food. You harvest your crops. You finally fill your storage with grain. Then suddenly a government official arrives. He says, "Congratulations. Now give me part of it." You might think taxes are a modern invention. Something created by politicians and accountants. But taxes are actually one of the oldest inventions in human history. In fact, taxes are older than money. Older than banks. Older than many countries. For over 5,000 years, every civilization has struggled with the same question. How do you pay for a society? And the answer they chose changed the course of history. Some taxes built empires. Some taxes started revolutions. And some taxes destroyed entire civilizations. Today, we're going to uncover the fascinating story of taxes, from ancient grain collections to modern income tax. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why taxes exist, why people hate them, and why civilization itself may be impossible without them. Before taxes. For most of human history, taxes didn't exist. Why? Because governments didn't exist. Humans lived in small tribes. Everyone hunted, gathered food, and survived together. There were no roads. No armies. No public projects. No kings demanding payment. But around 10,000 years ago something changed. Agriculture appeared. People stopped wandering. Villages became permanent. Permanent villages became cities. And cities created a new problem. Someone had to organize everything. Who would build irrigation systems? Who would protect the city? Who would settle disputes? The birth of civilization required administration. And administration required resources. This was the moment taxes became inevitable. The first tax collectors. The world's first taxes appeared in ancient Mesopotamia around 3000 BCE. But there was one major problem. Money barely existed. So governments couldn't collect cash. Instead, people paid taxes with whatever they produced. Grain. Livestock. Oil. Wool. Even labor. Imagine paying your taxes with bags of wheat instead of money. That's exactly what happened. Ancient temples and rulers collected huge quantities of food and goods. Massive storage buildings were built specifically to hold tax collections. In many ways, ancient governments looked more like giant warehouses than modern states. The earliest tax records discovered by archaeologists are written on clay tablets. Some are over 5,000 years old, which means one of humanity's oldest written activities wasn't poetry. It wasn't science. It was tax accounting. Ancient Egypt's tax machine. If Mesopotamia invented taxes, Egypt perfected them. The Nile River flooded every year. This made farming incredibly productive. Egyptian rulers realized something powerful. If they collected a portion of every harvest, they could control enormous wealth. Tax collectors traveled across the kingdom measuring fields and estimating crop production. Scribes carefully recorded everything. Farmers often paid taxes with grain. The grain was stored in gigantic government granaries. These tax revenues funded asterisk pyramids, asterisk temples, asterisk roads, asterisk armies, asterisk government workers. The famous pyramids weren't just engineering achievements. They were tax-funded projects. Without taxes, they likely would never have existed. But Egyptians weren't always happy about it. Ancient records describe tax disputes, complaints, and even attempts to avoid payment. Some things never change. Rome and the business of taxation. The Romans transformed taxation into an empire-building machine. Rome controlled millions of people across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Maintaining roads, armies, and cities required enormous amounts of money. So Rome developed sophisticated taxes. Land taxes. Trade taxes. Import taxes. Property taxes. And sometimes special emergency taxes during wars. Rome even outsourced tax collection. Private contractors called publicani collected taxes for profit. Think of them as ancient tax companies. This system generated huge revenue. But it also created corruption. Many collectors became infamous for overcharging citizens. Tax abuse became one of Rome's biggest political problems, yet despite its flaws, Roman taxation helped finance one of history's most powerful empires. The tax that started a revolution throughout history. People have tolerated many things. But unfair taxes often trigger rebellion. One of the most famous examples happened in the 1700s. The British Empire imposed taxes on its American colonies. The colonists became furious. Not necessarily because taxes existed, but because they had no political representation. Their complaint became legendary. No taxation without representation. The conflict escalated. Protests spread. The famous Boston Tea Party occurred. And eventually the American Revolution began. A tax dispute helped create a new nation. History repeatedly shows the same pattern. People are often willing to pay taxes. But they want fairness. And they want a voice in how those taxes are used. The birth of income tax. For thousands of years, governments mainly taxed property, trade, and goods. Then a revolutionary idea emerged. What if governments taxed income itself? Modern income tax first appeared in Britain in 1799. The government needed money to fight Napoleon. Officials created a temporary tax on earnings. The key word was temporary. But like many temporary taxes in history, it stayed. Other countries followed. By the 20th century, income taxes had become common across the world. Governments now had access to far larger revenue streams than ever before. This allowed them to fund public schools, healthcare systems, infrastructure, scientific research, social programs. The modern state became possible because modern taxation became possible. Why people hate taxes? Taxes create a psychological problem. Humans naturally focus on what they lose. Behavioral economists call this loss aversion. Losing $100 feels more painful than gaining $100 feels rewarding. When taxes are deducted, people immediately notice the loss. But the benefits are often invisible. Roads, police, military defense, public health systems, courts, water systems. These are easy to take for granted. As a result, taxation creates a permanent tension. Citizens want services. Citizens dislike paying for services. Governments need revenue. Governments fear public anger. This tension has existed for thousands of years. And it will probably never disappear. The future of taxes. Today governments face new challenges. Digital businesses operate globally. Artificial intelligence is changing work. Cryptocurrencies challenge traditional systems. Some experts believe future governments may tax robots, AI systems, carbon emissions, digital transactions. Others argue tax systems must become simpler. No one knows exactly what taxation will look like 100 years from now. But one thing seems certain. As long as governments exist, some form of taxation will exist. The history of taxes is really the history of civilization. Taxes built roads, funded armies, created governments, constructed pyramids, supported scientific discoveries, and shaped nations. Yet taxes also sparked revolutions, rebellions, and political struggles. For over 5,000 years humanity has debated the same question. How much should citizens contribute to society? And despite all our technological progress, we're still searching for the perfect answer.